Hello, my name is Aditya, and I help young men start making money online by doing work that they actually love instead of, I don't know, like drop shipping cheap Chinese Alibaba products, and by fixing their mindset, right? And in this lecture, I'm going to explain how to grow a business literally 10 times faster. That's not even an exaggeration. I prepared this entire like huge mind map presentation, whatever you want to call it, and I spent a really long time on this, and I'm going to go through this whole thing with you, and by the end of this I guarantee that you're going to be on your way to actually starting to make money. And real quickly before I get started, I just want to establish my authority. So if you're watching this raw unedited lecture that's like, I don't know, however long this is going to be, like 10-20 minutes on how to start making money online 10 times faster and actually grow a business, then you've probably tried to start a side hustle or a business in the past, or at least you've thought about it and you've like watched the videos on how to do that. And I just want to say that I've literally been in your same exact position, right? Over a year ago, I like tried drop shipping these astronaut phone cases from AliExpress. That didn't work. And then I tried to start an agency called A Bloom Advertising. That didn't work either. And then I tried to start a TikTok core account to try to make some money online. That didn't work. And then I tried to start a YouTube channel, a self-improvement YouTube channel. And guess what? That didn't work either. And now once I've actually started to realize what I'm about to tell you in this video, and once I've actually started to make changes, I'm actually starting to make money online now, which is amazing. And it's all because I routinized my life. You need to routinize your life. You need to make it more routine. And and if you're a student, you've probably slacked off this summer or like in past summers. And you're probably asking, why is that? And it's because of two things. It's because of a lack of routine, and you have tons of free time in the day. And I recently just realized this and fixed this myself because for the entire summer this year, I was, like rotting in bed. I was just wasting so much time. I was watching short form content, all of that. And then I started to pick up journaling again, and I journaled about this. And very recently, I've actually fixed this, and it has been so good. The results from that have been so good. And guess what? A lack of routine and tons of free time, those both are going to lead to a ton of boredom, right? And if you have a ton of boredom, if you're bored and you don't have that much responsibility, right? You might have your parents might want you to go to like a class or two, or you might have some responsibilities. Maybe you have a job. If you have a summer job, then that's amazing. That definitely helps. But if you don't have that much responsibility, then addictions start to creep in, because addictions are really common when you're bored. That's a really common trigger. And you're actually less productive instead of being more, right? So you think that if you had more free time and more time to work, then you'd be a lot more productive, but you're actually less, because the addictions, they make you backtrack, right? They make you worse because for example, if you were like addicted to short form content and like TikTok and YouTube shorts and stuff like that, and if you started to pick up those again, or if like you started to pick up video games again, then that ruins like the dopamine system in your brain. Like your brain's getting so much more dopamine now, and your attention span's being reduced. And so that's making you backtrack, and also you're less productive because now you're doing these addictions a lot more and you're actually working less. And you can't be a successful entrepreneur if you work based off of emotions. And I have a whole separate video on this. It's called The One Thing Stopping You from Making Money Online. You need a schedule to follow, right? All of the successful entrepreneurs, they all have a schedule. They all routinely work on their business, because going off of emotions instead of logic, that's going to lead to addictions. That's going to lead to switching business models, which is called shiny object syndrome. And that's also going to lead to procrastinating on your work instead of actually just doing it and biting the bullet and, eating the frog, as I say, if you know that saying. Then all three of those are going to lead to not making, or as I said earlier, actually losing progress, right? Because look, in 2000, the average attention span of a human, this is crazy, it was 12 seconds, right? And now it's just 8 seconds. And guess what? A goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. You probably heard this before. Like, look at how stupid this thing is. You need attention span if you want to do good in business. And this, like, idiot, like, goldfish has literally a higher attention span than you. And basically, a higher attention span pretty much correlates to doing better in business, right? Because you can think longer term. You're actually more focused. And right now, your head looks like this, right? You have, in the middle of your brain, you're like, okay, you're focusing on the work, right? But all around that, you have a bunch of random stuff, right? You have like, I could play CS right now, or whatever other video game. Did they text me back? I should check. I should try drop shipping instead. It seems so much easier. I deserve a break. I did so much work. And then you have like random brain rot stuff from like the TikToks or the YouTube shorts that you've consumed throughout the day. And then you're like, okay, I'm kind of hungry, because you don't have consistent eating patterns, right? You don't eat consistent things at consistent times of the day. You just eat whenever you want, probably. I should check if blank posted a new video. These are all distractions, and focusing on your work is literally just one part of all of these like 8 different things. And think about this really quickly. If working based off of emotion actually worked in business and it actually got you results and it was better than working based off of logic, then you'd already be a zillionaire, right? You'd be the richest man alive because you probably run almost completely off of emotions right now. And really quickly, before I talk about how to consistently stick to your ideal schedule instead of, sticking to it for one day and then quitting, I have a Discord server. It's the first link in the description. It's completely free. It's going to have Q&As, polls, events, like live events, calls, a great community of people like literally just like you, important announcements, and also like exclusive lessons from me that are going to be text, and there's also going to be some video ones. And so yeah, be sure to click the first link in the description right now for all of that. And if you don't like it there for some reason, you can always just leave. And so now you're probably asking, okay, this makes sense, but how do I actually stick to a schedule? And this is going to be what the rest of the video is about. And it's three main things, right? Gradual change, actually loving your work, which is what I mentioned at the very start of the video, and having a strong reason/goal for working. And so I'm just going to cover gradual change really quickly. So sure, right now you may have the motivation to work, but inevitably that is going to go away, and it goes up and down for everyone. Motivation goes up and down for everyone. So you can see it kind of goes into peaks and troughs, as they say. And you can see this, right? There's like the 3 a.m. push-ups / working on your business and you're super motivated, and that's high motivation. But when you relapse on addictions and bad habits and you forget about the work that you're supposed to be doing and you procrastinate and stuff like that, that's low motivation acting, right? So the low motivation is obviously the troughs, and then the high motivation is obviously the peaks. And this baffles me every time somebody tries to quit an addiction like cold turkey or whatever. You can't get rid of addictions you've had for years in just one day unless you have like a crazy desire. I don't know, if some like big event happened, like if your mom died or something, right? You can't just quit a huge addiction that you've built up over many, many years or months, and you can't just get rid of it, like overnight, just in a snap like that, right? So you're going to want to make tiny changes towards your ideal schedule daily for like 1 to 2 months, right? So you probably generally do the same thing every day. Obviously, it's changes every day because you don't have a consistent schedule right now, I'm assuming. And then you also want to have a clear ideal schedule. And so every day, just change what you do in that day incrementally until you're at your ideal schedule, and you won't even realize it because the changes were so tiny. And you're not going to mess up one day because, once again, the changes are so tiny. And you need to forget your ego, right? When I first heard this, I was like, okay, that applies to other people, but that does not apply to me. But you need to forget your ego, right? Because completely changing your schedule one day, like making a huge change, if that would have worked, then it would have worked for you already, right? So just forget your ego and make tiny changes even when you have high motivation, because once again, motivation goes up and down and up and down. And so an ideal schedule consists of mostly these three things, among other things. So you're going to want to have productive work in the morning, which is at least 1 hour, like pretty much just after you wake up. And even if you have school or work or whatever, you're going to want to fit in at least 1 hour, because that's when your brain is the sharpest. That's when your brain is not disturbed yet. You have a completely clean, high frequency brain, right? And then in the afternoon, you're probably going to want to socialize and relax more. So you don't have to, work for 16 hours a day, have a Sigma grind set. You can still socialize and relax. In fact, it's actually recommended, because then you get ready for the next day, right? Because you're going to get burnt out eventually if you just keep working 16-hour days. Like I've been reading Seneca's Letters to Ethics. If you don't know who Seneca is, it's like a Stoic philosopher from like the Roman Empire. And in his letters on ethics, he says like, you should like socialize and relax, and you should also work. You should not be like one of the polar opposites. And then he said something like, consult with nature. He'll tell you that he made both day and night. Something like that. That really stuck with me, and that really applies here as well. And lastly, you're not going to want to have addictions, / you're not going to even want to have time for addictions, right? So you're not going to want to have boredom, because addictions creep in when you're bored. So if you have like a consistent schedule where you have, where you keep doing activity after activity after activity, and you have times for each thing throughout the day, you're not going to be able to fit in like 2 or 3 or even just 1 hour of social media scrolling in the middle of it, right? Because you're actually going to be doing stuff. So that's basically the solution to not having addictions. And the second part of actually sticking to a schedule is loving your work, right? So if you come down here, loving your work, I have a video on this, a complete video on this that's 8 minutes and 34 seconds. It's not that long. You can just watch it on 2x speed or something. It's impossible to TLDR, right? I can't just give you the summary. And I promise I'm not farming views here. I know it only got 5 views, but I'm not farming views here. I promise it's actually useful. And lastly, you're going to want to have a strong reason/goal, right? So right there. And one important thing to note is that purposelessness is the same thing as addictions, right? So the reason why so many people get addicted to stuff is because they don't have any purpose to get off the addiction, right? And if they do have a purpose, their purpose isn't strong enough that they would get rid of their addiction for it, right? So like maybe they want to be healthier, right? but they don't want to be healthy or bad enough that they're going to quit their addiction to do so, right? So if you have a really strong reason, then you're going to quit your addictions and stuff naturally because they have nothing better to do, right? They have no purpose, they have no meaning, and so they just turn to addictions slash instant gratification because that's all they can do. So I want to ask you, what are you starting a business for? This is a really important question, right? You're going to want to have a list of numerous strong reasons and a vision board of your ideal lifestyle. I actually did this on accident and it has been overpowered. Like I did this and it was overpowered for me, and then I told my friends about it and they tried it as well and it was overpowered for them. So I highly recommend that you have a list of numerous strong reasons of why you're starting a business slash why you want the end result, like why you want the money from the business, and then a vision board of, the life you could be living if you did achieve that result. And you're going to want to look at both of these things. So this can just be a document or it can be handwritten, whatever. And this can also just be a Google document where you just copy paste a bunch of pictures from Pinterest. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to have like the overlapping pictures in the vision board. Just have a bunch of pictures. And if after a while you get bored of looking at the same pictures, you can just like refresh it. You can just delete those pictures and go back to Pinterest and get new ones. And you're going to want to look at them right after you wake up. So before you start working, whenever you're demotivated, because they're going to basically be like an unlimited motivation generator, and also right before you go to bed. And here's a really important point. Addictions and procrastination are simply forgetting your quote unquote why. Because here's a really, really useful quote. He who has a why for which to live can bear with almost any how. He who has a why can bear almost any how. That's the simplified version. And this is a quote from Nietzsche, a really good philosopher. If you don't know who he is, you can just look him up. And make sure that you remember this. Make sure that you jam this into your head, right? If you take one thing from this video, he who has a strong why for which to live can bear with almost any how. You need a why. The reason why you take the easy path of addiction slash procrastination sometimes is because at that moment, you're forgetting your quote unquote why. So since at that moment, you're forgetting your why, you don't have any reason to go through the how. So you don't have any reason to fight the pain of, I don't know, you don't want to do the work and you do the work anyways. You don't have a reason to do that because you're forgetting your why at that moment. So forgetting your why just equals to a lack of motivation at that specific moment. And hey, this looks familiar, right? It's the same chart, the same graph, whatever, from this right here. Motivation goes up and down, right? Because motivation goes up and down because your peaks right here are when you're remembering why you're working, you're remembering your why. And your troughs are simply just when you forget about your why at that specific moment. Are you seeing it start to come together now? Because when I journaled on this and when I realized this was like a huge revelation for me. I just want to compare a consistent and a chaotic schedule. So right now you probably have a chaotic schedule and you're going to work towards a consistent routinized schedule. So with the consistent schedule, you're obviously going to do consistent high quality work, which is obviously going to lead to consistent growth slash results. And this is going to lead to exponential business success, right? Because your business is going to grow exponentially because you're putting more and more and more and more effort, and it's going to compound on itself. So like, let's say that you're making a YouTube channel. The growth of your channel is going to keep growing exponentially rather than, like a line. And then with a chaotic schedule based off of emotions, which is probably what you're doing right now, you're obviously going to do inconsistent, low quality work, which is going to lead to inconsistent, worse, chaotic results from a chaotic schedule. Seems reasonable enough. And then your business is going to stay stagnant, right? Because you're going to have a bunch of these peaks and you're going to have a bunch of troughs. You can see these troughs here and you can see these peaks here because sometimes you're going to remember and sometimes you're going to forget your why. So you're going to have peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs. And this is just the amount of how much you're remembering or forgetting your why. So it's kind of hard to understand, but this is just a measure of how much you're remembering or you're forgetting your why. So if you consistently remember your why, then you're going to consistently keep working on your business and you're going to consistently keep improving, and you're going to do so much better. And look, with this graph, you can see that you're still putting in so much effort. You're still putting in so much work. You're still thinking about your business, but you're just not getting any results from it, right? And that's so sad to see because you're putting in all the work, but you're just not getting any of the results. And I learned this from Sam Ovens, right? Having a consistent and chaotic schedule. This guy, he literally makes like multiple $100,000 a month. He's a really good entrepreneur. He has a YouTube channel called Sam Ovens. Let me just write that down for you. Sam Ovens, where he talks about really useful business mindset concepts that are really going to help you in growing your business. Even when you're just starting out and you're trying to make your first dollar, this guy's videos will still apply. So I highly recommend his channel. You can just look it up on YouTube. And a final note, a final caveat is that you do not want to be too strict with your time. Please do not be too strict with it because you still want to live life. You still want to take opportunities and you still want to socialize. You're still going to want to do those three things. Those are really important because that's what life is about, right? We are social creatures by nature. We're social creatures. So don't lock yourself in a room and work on your business relentlessly. Still socialize, still talk to people, still take opportunities, and still live life. Because I used to constantly try to save a minute here and there and try to, constantly basically like penny the equivalent of like penny pinching for money. I was doing that with my time, and people liked me a lot less because of it, and it was definitely not worth it. I saved a maximum of probably like 20, 30 minutes a day from it at like the very max. And so, yeah, if you've made it through the end of this pretty long lecture without any edits or anything, you should probably congratulate yourself. And you are definitely on your way to becoming a successful entrepreneur because you probably have an attention span much higher than a goldfish or even like a human in 2000, right? So you should definitely congratulate yourself for that. And yeah, once again, join the Discord server. The first link in the description. It's going to have a bunch of super valuable stuff for you. And also, if you're really serious about starting to make money online and you love the whole idea of the entrepreneur lifestyle where, you get to retire your parents and you get to see the smiles on their faces and they're proud of you, and you get to take a flight wherever you want, and you don't have to worry about buying the cheaper thing at the grocery store or at the restaurant, and you can pay for the bill and you can buy nice stuff for your house and you can invest in your health or your food or whatever, then be sure to click the second link in the description. It will change your life. I promise you. Just check it out for like a minute or two. And if it's not for you, if you don't like it, you can always just close off the tab, no problem, and forget about it. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.